Welcome once again to the Kevin Dunn Show, and we're so excited that you've taken the time out to join us. As always, we have a special guest in our studios today. We have a 6th grade middle school teacher, Ms. Autry, who is a teacher at W.F. Burns, and Mrs. Autry has some very creative ways of teaching kids to learn. When we come back from the commercial break, we're going to find out more about Mrs. Autry and some of her creative ways of teaching.
At Charter Bank, you get totally free checking with online statements. You betcha. Free mobile banking, free online banking, free online bill pay, free debit card, even a new account gift. Free. At Charter Bank, we're here to wow you. And totally free checking is just the beginning. Come see us or open online at charterbank.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Life in the country is a conscious choice. And with that choice comes hard work, attention to detail, and investing in the right tools to keep your home or farm at its best. So why choose anything but the very best zero turns on the market today? Exmark. Known for their durability, precision cut, and time-saving performance, Exmarks are the preferred brand of mowing equipment for the landscape professional and people like you who take pride in their lawn. For special pricing incentives, visit exmark.com or your local dealer.
Welcome back to the Kevin Dunn Show, where we have Miss Tammy Autry. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Kevin. How are you?
Miss Autry is a 6th grade middle school teacher at W.F. Burns.
Yes,
and I wanted Miss Autry to come in because I can remember my son, when he was in pre-K or kindergarten, they were actually trying to learn sight words. Yes. And he could not learn the sight words. And I used to get so frustrated. And Miss Autry said, they don't make sense to him.
Right.
And
right.
You have to create an avenue where the words make sense to him. So she told me to place the sight words on his action figures. And some of you may have already known this. I didn't. But once we placed those words on his action figures, they became real to him and he was able to learn.
Exactly.
So how long have you been teaching?
I've been teaching for 13 years now.
13 years?
Yes, sir.
Just to let you in on a little secret, Ms. Autry happens to be my sister.
Yes.
And
yes.
So excited that you had an opportunity to come and be a guest on the show.
Yes, sir.
So outside of, our parents had over 80 years of teaching experience. Outside of our parents being educators, what motivated you to become a teacher?
Well, at first, I did not want to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. I wanted to go into the field of business because I felt like I was good doing that. Mm-hmm. But people kept saying, you've always worked with children. You've mm-hmm. always had children singing in the choir. You've always had children around you. And that is probably what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So as I searched and I worked in restaurant management and all of these things, mm-hmm. My uncle, the late Commissioner Ross Dunn, mm-hmm. called me to his office one day mm-hmm. and he said, you need to teach. And he opened up his briefcase and pulled out a college application and he made me fill it out. My mom always told me I should be teaching, mm-hmm. but it truly was an act of God for mm-hmm. me to go into the profession of teaching. Mm.
Seeing all of the blood, sweat, and tears that our parents poured out into the community as being educators, and we know they went way above and beyond. Seeing all of the hard labor, why did you still want to teach even after seeing this?
That was one of the reasons. I watched my parents give of themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. I watched my parents have to work a job during the summer. They would haul us to Chicago because the cost of living was higher so that they could make money. Mm-hmm. But I watched all of that. But one thing that I had to realize that my parents were my role models. Mm-hmm. And because they were my role models, they were the ones that were leading the path, showing me what I need to do. Mm-hmm. So being daddy's little girl, I mm-hmm. wanted to please daddy. Mm-hmm. And my mom, who was an awesome woman, I wanted to please her too. So I really had to do some soul searching. God had to really convict me and let me know mm-hmm. that that's what I was supposed to be doing.
Mm. Now, when a few years back, you had the term Queen Bee
Yes,
in
sir.
your classroom,
Still
and
do.
I would call you. You actually have a tag on your vehicle that says
I do.
"Be Forever."
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about how that came into existence, and being all you can be. I don't know.
My husband said that when it was time for me to get a car tag, that I needed something that would represent me. One of my students brought me a poem, The Talking Bee, and people can't believe that when I was in high school, I never talked. And now I talk all of the time. But the poem talked about the talking bumblebee was a person who, in their mother's womb, knew that they needed to help people to be all they could be. And the talking bumblebee would help people just soar. The talking bumblebee would always be there to inspire and encourage. So when it was time to get my car tag, I asked my students to help me to come up with a car tag, and one of them came up with Be Forever, because they felt like that I was going to always be that queen bee, of course, and always be that person that would inspire others to be greater than they thought they could be. So Be Forever, when people see me on the road and they look at Be Forever, they're like, Be Forever? What is that? But I'm going to always be that talking bumblebee. And I had bumblebees in my classroom. People
Yes.
say, why? Because they're hard workers. That's what I took from bumblebees. And I want my kids to work hard. That's it. Bottom line.
So bees are hard workers.
Yes, sir.
Very interesting. You have some very interesting concepts and creative ways of teaching kids to learn. And I've experienced that. And just by talking with you at family gatherings, I've seen you at work in the classroom when I come to visit. Your students be sitting so tight. They're so scared, and I feel
They're
so
not.
sorry for them. But I know that's just a form of discipline you had that you got from our Father.
Yes, sir.
What are some how did you develop these creative ways, these concepts of teaching kids to learn?
When I said I had a life change in order to go into the classroom, that it was all God, and that's where everything comes from. My mother would tell me, when the Holy Spirit brings something to your remembrance, you go with it. And there are times Holy Spirit would bring something to my remembrance and I would teach it. And after I finished teaching it, I couldn't remember what it was. So I have to do a self-evaluation. I want my kids to work hard. I want them to be all that they can be. So as I study and as I read, and I have to think about they're all different learners. And I have to do different things in the classroom to make sure that I meet the needs of, and I wanted to meet the needs of all of my students. And sometimes that, just didn't happen. But I needed to meet the needs of the majority of them. So that's why I do the different creative things. One of the things I remember, I was teaching language and I had some boys who wanted no part of language. And I talked to my mom and I said, I have got to make a difference in these boys' life. She gave me a football. And I taught language using the football. I had a young man in my class who was a quarterback, and I would show them a stance, and they was like, "A teacher knowing about football?" Oh yes. I would show them the quarterback passing off the ball, passing off the ball directly for direct object and indirectly for indirect object.
Wow.
And I was a hero then, and I did celebrate. Those boys now have gone on to college, but one of them just graduated from the Marines, and he told me how much of a difference I made in his life by believing in him. That's the main key.
Wow.
Believing in my students.
Wow, that's incredible, because I'm sure a lot of that is not happening now with teachers not believing in their students. How do you know what works?
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't. The best lesson I ever had in math bombed. I was so excited. I got brownies and I was going to teach mixed numbers. And I bought brownies for my students. I cut them into fractions and I had everything laid out. It was the perfect lesson and I bombed. But I knew that I could not do that lesson the same way. I would have to try something else. Just because a lesson seems like it's the best, it might not be the best. So then I had to roll up my sleeves and get down dirty, teach that concept, and then build up to that. And once I was able to build up to that, then it worked. But sometimes the best laid out lessons, and you execute it the way that you think it should be executed, sometimes it just doesn't work. So you have to regroup. And I have to do a self-assessment every day. Sometimes I'm hard on myself at the end of the day, and sometimes I say, okay, I did a great job today. Pat myself on the back because I need that, because sometimes I do have to encourage myself. But there are lessons that are perfect lessons, but they might not meet the needs of my kids, of the different learners that I have.
Teaching, should you worry about whether or not the students like you or not? Is that a big concern, keeping the teaching aspect at the forefront? Is that a big concern?
That is a big concern, because teaching middle school, it is not cool for the students to like their teacher. It's not cool sometimes for them to make good grades or do what's right, because at that age they are more interested in pleasing their peers and not the teacher. So when I'll have to talk to a student or have to call a parent, the first thing that they say is, she doesn't like me. And that is something that I have to explain to my kids. You have your friends, I have my adult friends. So there is a line between your teacher and yourself. And we're not in here for the BFF club. So, and they like that. We're not here for that. But when a student really realizes what I have for them, that I have so much excellence in my heart for them, then we get along fine. But most of the time they'll say, she doesn't like me, or she's too hard, or she's mean. And I say, I mean business. But I do want them to be excellent now. That is my main focus for my students, to be excellent.
I just asked you a few minutes ago what works, and you actually talked about a concept you had that didn't work. Are there any other things that you know right offhand that may have worked maybe 5-10 years ago that does not work now?
One of the things that I pride myself on is being a disciplinarian. And even though I have the same classroom rules and classroom procedures, I have to say I've changed those things. There were kids that would take to the classroom procedures and rules right off.
Okay.
There were those kids. Now there's a big challenge. A big challenge. And it's not so to say that children are not wanting to be excellent, but there's a challenge for them. There we go again, wanting to please their student, their friends, and not necessarily the grown people. We have to do what we call differentiated instruction. We have to adapt our lessons to meet the needs of all children. Now, that is not anything new, but we have to focus on that. In years in the past, I've had to bring a lot of things to the classroom, and one of the things was I wanted to make a difference. If I had 28 students, I wanted to make a difference in all 28 at the same time. That's not realistic. I have to make a difference one child at a time. So when I learned that, I saw different things happening. And when those children take hold of what you're trying to give them, they will in turn help in the classroom and be those little helpers that I've created that helps the classroom to flow so smoothly. And my class leaders and attendance managers, all those people I have in the classroom, they make me look really good. The classroom just flows. And when people come sometime to take over my class, they'll just stand and they'll watch. My children know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. We have developed a relationship where they want to make me proud. And I make sure I let them know I'm proud of them as well.
That's great. So much valuable information, especially for you teachers out there. We're going to have to pause and take a quick commercial break. When we come back from the commercial break, we're going to be discussing teachers as being an underpaid profession. More from the Kevin Dunn Show after the commercial break.
It's tax refund time, and America's Mattress in LaGrange knows where you spend the most time resting and relaxing. Every mattress they sell is a first quality Serta America's Mattress. They have mattresses ranging from $99 to $8,000, so they have one to fit any budget. Their huge inventory includes the I-Series, the Perfect Sleeper, and the I-Comfort. In the market for an adjustable bed, America's Mattress has them in stock. Use your tax refund to purchase the most important piece of furniture in your home. A good night's sleep is waiting on you at America's Mattress.
Maximum Tax Professionals in West Point has an expert staff that will meet all your tax preparation needs. Maximum Tax Professionals would love to prepare your taxes. Their ultimate goal is to maximize your return with you receiving your refund usually within 7 days. They offer free estimates, W-2 Express, notary services, and all military, self-employed, and walk-ins are welcome. You can even earn cash on referrals. And don't forget to ask them about Audit Plus Protection. If you would like your return maximized, visit Maximum Tax Professionals in West Point. Welcome back to the Kevin Dunn Show, where we're talking with Tammy Autry, a 6th grade middle school teacher at W.F. Burns. And I've been reading where Governor Bentley is really trying to push to give you guys a 2% raise. But that's another story. Teaching is considered an underpaid profession. If that is true, how do you stay committed, being underpaid, and still keeping the children as the primary focus?
That's a good question. Number one, it's all about the children.
Mm-hmm.
Children need so much. Children coming up with all kind of baggage,
Mm-hmm.
all kind of learning styles. But children need somebody in their life as role models to just foster what parents have already taught. Most people say, well, a lot of the parents are young, but still they need us. I want to make sure that I hold myself accountable to what God has called me to do.
Okay, all right.
And that is my main focus. I remember a couple of years I had knee surgery. And I had knee surgery so that I could go back to work on time, that I wouldn't miss any time off from work. And most people are, why are you here? Why are you back? It's my students. That's where I gain strength. They're the ones, most people say, well, my child does this or my child does, but I stand on the shoulders of my students, my parents and my grandparents. I'm at my best when I'm in the classroom. And that's not to be arrogant, puffed up in pride, but I do a lot of things well. But when I'm in the classroom, that's when I know what God has called me to do. And that's the best. That is the best. Given to the children. They need us. They really do. Whether it's middle school, high school. And I think if I taught high school, I would still be the mother hen at the high school as well.
Hen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of my mentors said to be a mother first and then be a teacher. One of my former teachers, she said, make sure you're teaching the whole child. And that is something that I always try to remember.
Now, and I know you can't speak for a lot of other teachers, but I know there are several other teachers who just say, I'm just in it for my paycheck. And I don't have time to be doing everything Miss Autry does. I don't have time to go above and beyond. If someone is actually feeling like that, what would you say to them?
In the field of education, just like any other job, there are a lot of things that we have to do.
Right.
There's a lot of paperwork. That's one of the main reasons is paperwork. There are a lot of forms. There's a lot of documentation we have to keep up with. And sometimes it does get to be too much. But you have to realize that, and most people don't realize why they were put on this earth.
Okay.
I was destined to be a teacher. That's why I had to have a life change. That's why there was such a struggle in my life. I went into the field of business and I literally messed up. But because God had already put it in me. When I come into the school system or whatever I do, I have to already be prayed up before I get there. Because guess what? There are times when I don't feel good. There are times when I'm just bombarded with so many things to do, but I want to do my best for my father. That's it. My mom and my dad taught me well. My aunts and uncles, they were all teachers. Most people say teachers breed teachers, and I didn't, really want to go there, but I have to realize that God called me to be a teacher. He preordained me, predestinated me to be a teacher. And for those people who don't feel like I do, the passion is not there. You're only going to get that passion from God. That's where you're going to get it from. Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but that's where you get it from. That extra help. Troy prepared me for much. But the passion that's still burning on the inside of me, that makes me want to go on in the classroom. Oh, I got that from reading scriptures, fasting, and praying. A lot of people will come to me when they need prayers. They say, will you pray for me? I say, come on, let's pray now. But I just feel like that the calling is there. And I feel like that you don't get to this place overnight. So you have to continue, you have to want to do it. Find positive people to talk to. find teachers, find young teachers that have that passion, find veteran teachers that have that passion. Go to your principal. My principal is straight down the middle, straightforward lady. She means business, but that support is there when I need it. So being where God has called you to be, that's it. That's a big issue for me.
Wow, and this is another reason I really wanted you to come on the show, because the passion that you're actually seeing right now, this is the passion that sometimes when we're around family meals, this is the same passion we see in our living room or our dad's house. So that's definitely why I wanted to bring you on the show. Just say if you have a particular class and only maybe 20 to 40% of the kids are passing in this class. What do you do?
First of all, I don't do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. But when I have students that are not passing, I have to find out what the problem is. And sometimes we take things for granted. And if the problem is me, then I have to get on it.
Okay.
Because I've had, family members that were not passing. I can make all kinds of excuses, but at the end of the day, I have to see what I can do. And when I have a student now, a lot of times the student gets in a lot of trouble, but when this student participates in class, I've cinched the deal then. But when like if I give a test and I see that the children did not do well, I have to go back and assess, okay, what did I do? What was my part? Yes, they have to study. Yes, we provide studying for them, but still I have to look and see what it is. And if I do have to, somebody really does have to be retained, which that's hard in 6th grade. In the elementary grades, sometimes, the maturity level is not there. But that's hard when we have to retain someone. So I have to do what I can now. And sometimes I have to push hard. And they don't like it when I push hard. No. So if my students don't do well, then I feel like I haven't done well. There's always one in the bunch that's gonna try to prove who they are. But I have to remind the Queen Bee is on the throne. So that's usually the take I take for it, because that's hard. That's hard.
Can you push too hard?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can.
When do you know that you?
When a child
back off.
When a child shuts down, you read the facial expressions. When they're getting ready to come into your classroom, you can see it on their face. They sit and they don't work. So that's when I have to do something or spark their interest or something. When a child comes and brings me something, especially someone who maybe I've pushed too hard, brings me something and say, we've talked about this in class, then that's the mark of a good teacher. When they bring things from the outside to let you know that, hey, I want to be a part of the class. And because I teach science, I do a lot of hands-on. And a lot of my coworkers say, you can hold that over their head. But because we're moving around and we do music, everything is music in my classroom. We do hands-on, we work in different groups, they get a chance to talk and socialize. That helps me with the discipline. Because if the discipline is good, we can do all that other stuff where the learning takes place.
And that's interesting. You have to create an environment that's conducive to learning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm not going to say where I went, but there were some high schools that I visited, and kids were just up, just talking and out of their seats, and that was just incredible to me. I didn't know that actually happens, but I hear a lot of that happens because of the teachers. Some teachers just have a lack of concern, a lack of caring. I'm just going to put it out there.
Yes,
you're either going to get it or you're not going to get it, and I'm not going to do anything about it. Now, in your opinion, and I know you've made changes, but and I don't know if this is relevant to high school or not, but in elementary and in middle school, in your opinion, do you think all teachers should change when the majority of the class is not passing? Do you think, I know that this works for you, but in your opinion, should teachers change what they're doing if the majority of their classes, majority of their students are not passing?
Yes, sir. I don't want it to come off like I'm just this perfect teacher that I do everything right.
Right.
But you have to make adjustments. You have to make adjustments from year to year. You might have to make, if I teach 4 classes of science, there are certain things that I can do with this class that I'm going to have to make an adjustment with this one and be open to making the adjustments because my students are different. So, and like I said, that evaluation, that, you know, just a simple evaluation, which is good. This worked today, this didn't work today. I need to make some adjustments. A lot of times we have things in our head that we want to do. We make our lesson plans, and in the lesson plans, once we make the lesson plans, it's in our mind as to what we're going to do. But then once we actually start doing it, we were doing earthquake houses this past week. And they had to plan their earthquake houses. And I heard one of my students say, this is not actually working like we thought it would work. And I said, so what are you going to do now? Oh, we're going to regroup. So that's the same thing I have to do. I have to regroup. I do, always.
Wow, wow. Now, how do you balance fast learners and slow learners?
My fast learners are those that I use as class leaders, lab leaders. As they master a skill or whatever it is, I have them to help others, use as peer tutors. And one of the things in my classroom is don't fuss, let's discuss. Because a lot of times when there are certain kids, they don't want other kids helping. Some of them, they want other kids to help them and do the work. So we have a balance where everybody treats everybody with respect and we work hard. So those fast learners are my helpers, my assistants. And you know what? Some of the learners that are not fast learners, I'll also have to use those as my helpers to let them know that everybody plays a part in the classroom. Certain ones that go to another class and what I call tear up the club, and they'll come to my room and they'll do what I asked them to do. And I have to remind them, you know, what each teacher's rules, procedures are. So that's what you do in that classroom. When you come to the next class, you do what you need to do in that classroom. So my fast learners are my helpers, and I pair them up, and they really help my classroom to run really smoothly.
Sounds great, sounds great. One last question, Mrs. Autry.
Yes, sir.
You may have a teacher, or maybe have somebody who's undergrad who's thinking about being a middle school teacher. Last question, what advice would you give someone that's contemplating becoming a middle school teacher?
My first piece of advice is don't be afraid. Most time teachers like to teach the grade level that they found that they were most comfortable with, the ones that they had the most fun in, that they learned the most. 6th grade for me was my hardest year. I had a lot of obstacles that I had to face in 6th grade. But when I found that God really wanted me, because I would pass by W.F. Burns and say, oh, I never worked there, not at the middle school, because middle school left a bad taste in my mouth. But middle school children deserve the best teachers, just like elementary, high school. But everybody has to find where that calling is. So when we do like an internship, they'll do like a lower grade and a higher grade. But, and I had one instructor, she started off in 4th grade, and she knew right off that was not the place for her, and secondary. So find out where you fit. And sometimes teachers have to take jobs where they can to start out with. So if you do, make the best of it. Use the tools that you've been given in college. Put prayer, meditation, talk to other people, but don't be afraid. Most people say these children have emotional problems. They have egos. They are, puberty is setting in. They're interested in girls. They're interested in boys. They're not interested in what I'm trying to give them. But don't be afraid of that. Go for it anyway. Teaching is a rewarding profession. The pay is not there, but it gives you a peace of mind and a satisfaction that you can't get anywhere else. And then ask God to help you and lead you and guide you, and you will be fine. But don't be afraid of middle school. My sister-in-law loves high school, and I feel like now if I had to do high school, I could, but I was afraid of it. But do your absolute best. Our children deserve the absolute best. Excellence is the name of the game.
Excellence is the name of the
Yes,
game.
sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much, Mrs. Tammy Autry.
Thank you,
My
Mr.
blood
Kevin
sister,
Dunn.
for being a guest on the Kevin Dunn Show. And remember, if you have a certain topic that you would like to see discussed on the Kevin Dunn Show, email us at thekevindunnshow@wjcntv.com. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.